Chapter 22. The Lord's hand behind the maid's mistake. The life of Jonah cannot be written without God. Take God out of the prophet's history, and there is no history to write. This is especially true of each one of us. Apart from God, there is no life, no thought, nor act, nor career of any man, however lowly or low, or high. Leave out God, and you cannot write the story of anyone's career. If you attempt it, it will be so ill written that it shall be clearly perceived that you have tried to make bricks without straw, and that you have sought to fashion a potter's vessel without clay. I believe that in a man's life, the great secret of strength and holiness and righteousness is the acknowledgement of God. When a man has no fear of God before his eyes, there is no wonder that he should run to an excess of meanness and even to an excess of riot. In proportion as the thought of God dominates the mind, we may expect to find a life that shall be true and really worth living. But in proportion as we forget God, we shall play the fool. It is the fool who says in his heart, "No God," and it is the fool who lives and acts as if there were no God. In every godly life, there is a set time for each event, and there is no need for us to ask, why is the white here and the black there? Why this gleam of sunlight and that roar of tempest? Why here a marriage and there a funeral? Why sometimes a harp and at other times a sackbut? God knows, and it is a great blessing for us when we can leave it all in His hands. Charles Haddon Spurgeon. Soon after I had begun to preach the word in the village of Waterbeach, I was strongly advised to enter Stepney, now Regent's Park College, to prepare more fully for the ministry. Knowing that solid learning is never an encumbrance, and is often a great means of usefulness, I felt inclined to avail myself of the opportunity of attaining it, although I hoped that I might be useful without a college training. I consented to the opinion of friends that I should be more useful with it. Dr. Angus, the tutor of the college, visited Cambridge, and it was arranged that we should meet at the house of Mr. Macmillan, the publisher. Thinking and praying over the matter, I entered the house exactly at the time appointed, and was shown into a room where I waited patiently a couple of hours, feeling too much impressed with my own insignificance and the greatness of the tutor from London to venture to ring the bell and make inquiries as to the unreasonably long delay. At last, Patience having had her perfect work, and my school engagements requiring me to attend to my duties as an usher, the bell was set in motion, and on the arrival of the servant, the waiting young man was informed that the doctor had tarried in another room until he could stay no longer, and had gone off to London by train. The stupid girl had given no information to the family that anyone had called, and had been shown into the drawing-room, and consequently the meeting never came about, although designed by both parties. I was not a little disappointed at the moment, but have 1,000 times since thanked the Lord very heartily for the strange providence which forced my steps into another path. Still holding to the idea of entering the collegiate institution, I thought of writing and making an immediate application, but this was not to be. That afternoon, having to preach at one of the village stations at the Cambridge Lay Preachers Association, I walked slowly in a meditative frame of mind over Midsummer Common to the little wooden bridge which leads to Chesterton, and in the midst of the common I was startled by what seemed a loud voice, but which may have been a singular illusion. Whichever it was, the impression was vivid to an intense degree. I seemed very distinctly to hear the words, "Seekest thou great things for thyself? Seek them not." This led me to look at my position from another point of view, and to challenge my motives and intentions. I remembered the poor but loving people to whom I ministered, and the souls which had been given me in my humble charge, and although at that time I anticipated obscurity and poverty as the result of the resolve, yet I did there and then solemnly renounce the offer of collegiate instruction, determining to abide for a season at least with my people, and to remain preaching the word so long as I had strength to do it. Had it not been for those words, in all probability I had never been where and what I am now. I was conscientious in my obedience to the monition, and I have never seen cause to regret it. Waiting upon the Lord for direction will never fail to afford us timely intimation of His will, for though the ephod is no more worn by a ministering priest, the Lord still guides His people by His wisdom, and orders all their paths in love, and in times of perplexity, by ways mysterious and remarkable, He makes them to hear a loud voice behind them, saying, "This is the way, walk ye in it." Probably, if our hearts were more tender, we might be favored with more of these sacred monitions. But alas, instead thereof, we are like the horse and the mule, which have no understanding, and therefore the bit and bridle of affliction take the place of gentler means. Else might the happier method be more often used, to which the psalmist alludes when he says, "Thou shalt guide me with thine eye." The following letters give further particulars concerning the proposed college course. Cambridge, February the 24th, 1852. My dear Father, Mr. Angus, the tutor of Stepney College, preached for us on Sunday the 1st of February. Being at my own place, I had no opportunity of seeing him, and was very surprised when, on Monday, I was told that he wanted to see me. I assure you, I never mentioned myself to him, nor to anyone. This came quite unexpectedly. I suppose the deacons of our church, hearing of my doings at Waterbeach, had thought right to mention me to him. Well, I went to the place of meeting, but by a very singular occurrence we missed each other. He waited in the parlour, while I was shown into the drawing-room, and the servant forgot to tell him I had come. As he was going to London, and could not wait, he wrote the enclosed.